Do we have uh, Noella? At, have we
Yes,
lost you?
please.
Okay,
I'm
so
here.
okay, so can you proceed with today's webinar? Thank you very much for joining, everyone.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's webinar. This webinar is a very important one, and we're going to be discussing a topical issue today. Today, we know that the world is trying as much as possible to get women included in decision-making and to participate in issues that affect them. And so this webinar is revolving around women in leadership. And the topic of today's webinar is addressing gender inequality and underrepresentation of women in higher senior leadership. And with me here are Dr. Leah Jallo, we have Dr. Mary Ojonema, we have Dr. Modupe Allah, and myself, Noella Ugu, also known as the Growth Coach. I am going to be the moderator for today's event. And let me tell you a bit about myself. So I am called the Growth Coach because while other people grow plants and animals, I grow people. I'm a business consultant, I'm a business coach. And what I do is that I help individuals and businesses achieve outstanding performance. I also coach people, I mentor, and I train. I am an advocate for women and children, and that's the reason I am here today. We have several projects that we have embarked on for young people and for girls as well. Just recently, we concluded a tech conference for young girls in secondary schools in rural areas, which was tagged Tech for Her. The Tech for Her conference is a conference where we exposed young girls in secondary school to the world of technology. As you all know, technology is seen to be a guy's thing, which is one of those biases that we're talking about. So you even see that in the tech world, women are underrepresented, girls are also underrepresented. And that was why we embarked on this journey to expose our young girls to the world of technology. So this is who I am in a nutshell. I am going to hand over to Dr. Leah Jallo to introduce herself. Dr. Leah, are you with us? Dr. Leah? Can you all hear me? Dr.
Yes,
Paul, can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, Dr. Leah is, I think she's having a network problem. So Dr. Mary, please, could you go ahead and introduce yourself? Oh, Dr. Leah is back. I can see her. Dr. Leah, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Unmute your mic, Dr. Leah.
Oh,
You've muted your, okay, great.
Okay, can you hear me?
Very well.
I am Leah. I am Dr. Leah Ilia Jallo, a staff of Gombe State University with the School of Basic and Medial Studies. I teach literature in English. I have a flair for gender, development, and women matters. I have researched extensively in that regard. From BA, MA to PhD work, I have researched extensively on issues that will help women have better standing in society. My PhD work focused on social change and the basic tools that can be used to advance social change, especially looking at complementarity between men and women as key in achieving social change. I have worked extensively in the university where I work. I've taken up responsibilities. I'm a unit head. I've been handling that office for a while now. I oversee the administrative and staff of the department, the administrative duties and staff of the department. I've also worked in several committees in the university. I am part of the seminar series committee, and it's a privilege to be here and to share my thoughts on how we can move women forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Leah. Thank you, thank you. And we know that we are all poised, ready to learn from you. I hope you can see my notebook. As you can see, we have a high-powered team here, ready to dish out knowledge to all of us. Thank you so much, Dr. Leah. So I'm going to call on Dr. Mary to please come on and introduce herself. Thank you so much, Dr. Leah.
Good
Dr.
evening,
Mary.
everyone. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be on this program today. I'm Dr. Onoja Alexander Mary. I'm the current provost of College of Health Sciences, Prince Abubakar Odu University, Ayimba, Kogi State. I'm a consultant public health physician. I have passions in working with women and children. I also am involved in disease surveillance and research. And I also manage clinical cases of TB, DRTB, HIV medicine. I'm also into infection and prevention control. Presently, I'm taking a PhD course in leadership and development studies. And my emphasis now is to work on gender-based violence. I've been a member to several bodies, a consultant to the teaching hospital, a consultant to Kogi State Primary Health Care Board, and I've served as a facilitator for monitoring evolution of public health programs in ABU in conjunction with the USAID. I'm also a national facilitator for the community health influenza and promotion programs in Nigeria. So my passion mostly is for women and children. So thank you for having me on this program.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mary. Thank you so, so much. I'm going to call on Dr. Modupe. Dr. Modupe, are you with us? Dr. Modupe, are you with us? Dr.
Yes,
Modupe,
can you
unmute
hear
your
me?
mic, please. Fantastic. Yes, we can hear you right now. You are muted again, Dr. Modupe.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Dr. Modupe Ala from Lead City University, the Department of Sociology. I currently serve as a lecturer in the department. I have served as the PG school coordinator before for my department. Currently, I am the examination officer for the department. My area of specialization is gender and peace building. My PhD work is on the management of marital conflict, where I understudied the International Federation of Women Lawyers and the Women's Law Clinic in the University of Ibadan. I am a certified mediator. Currently, I practice as a volunteer with the International Federation of Women Lawyers and the Oyo State Multi-Door Courthouse. I have a passion for women issues, especially where it has to do with in seeking redress for women that have been abused and women that are oppressed. And for now, that is all I do. I wish you a rollicking time with us in this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Modupe. And we're really going to roll with you. Thank you so, so much. So I'm going to spend just an hour here. So we're going to try as much as possible to be as straight to the point as possible with our questions, our responses. But I promise you that you're going to learn so much because so much research has actually gone into today's program. So straight to the questions. This is for you, Dr. Leah Jallow. We have heard so much about gender equity, gender inequity, gender inequality. In your own opinion, Dr. Leah, what do you understand by the term gender equity?
Thank you very much for that question. Before I go into giving details of what gender equity is, I would like to briefly start by giving us a brief definition of what equity is and what gender is, because they form the base for this explanation, which I'll offer. Equity means giving everybody, can you hear me?
Very well, Dr. Leah.
Equity means giving everyone what they need to be successful. It means that our differences should not be obstacles to attaining self-fulfillment and actualization. Therefore, in this regard, equity is synonymous with fairness and justice. Let me create a quick scenario that will help us understand this concept. If there are 5 candidates who are expected to take an exam in an institution, and what is required of them is that they give a vivid description of what is seen across the wall of their school. These candidates are of varying heights. So benches or stools are provided also of varying heights for these candidates. Equity in this context will mean giving the longest stool to the shortest candidate and the shortest stool to the longest the shortest stool to the tallest candidate. That way, all candidates have a fair view of what is across the wall, and they will be able to give a vivid description because none has been deprived. The use of equity in this context comes in meeting the needs of the person as it applies to the individual, as seen in this case. The next thing we're going to look at is what is gender. Gender can simply be seen as a social construct. It is identity based on social and cultural construct, which helps people in society to see themselves in that way or to conceive themselves in that manner, or how they feel. So back to our question, what is gender equity? Gender equity simply means attaining parity between human beings in the quality of life, academic and work outcomes, as well as in the society, without the limitations associated with gender stereotypes, gender roles, and prejudices. The emphasis on stereotypes, gender roles, and prejudices is because they uphold gender inequity. Because stereotypes are widely held beliefs that are not necessarily true, gender roles are generally accepted social positions that people are fixed into other than what they represent or who they are, while prejudices are opinions that are not based on reason and do not have any sufficient evidence. So gender equity entails representing all people without discrimination, and the barriers that limit a person's potential and ability to achieve are removed so that the person is able to attain great heights. Gender equity leads to increased sensitization and a wider range of potential participants, some of whom may have been excluded in the past, just as this program is canvassing for women to take up greater responsibilities in position of leadership in higher institutions. It canvasses for fair treatment of women and men according to their respective needs. So the emphasis is on what the person needs and how that need is met so that the person is able to achieve his or her goal and aspiration. It also means that women need to be compensated for the historical and social disadvantages that they face on account of being female. So this is, in a nutshell, what gender equity is. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Gender equity is about giving people what they need without limitations. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Leah. Now, do you think that gender equity is a concern in Nigeria, Dr. Leah?
Yes, gender equity is a concern in Nigeria because what has been obtainable before now and prevalent in most of our higher institutions is gender inequity, which is the exact opposite of gender equity. So If we are able to make gender equity a priority in our institutions, it will no doubt foster justice and fairness, as we have highlighted in the first part of this presentation. Gender equity and inequity in Nigerian institutions presents itself in various ways, so it is a concern in Nigerian higher institutions.
Okay, so now that you've mentioned it's a concern, what do you think is the nature of this inequity and the concerns that they raise? What kind of face does this gender inequity wear? What kind of garments does this gender inequity wear? What kind of shoes does this gender inequity wear?
Gender inequity is basically presented in most higher institutions in the area of underutilization of human resources and potentials, and also in the lopsidedness of positions of authority or positions of leadership in higher institutions. It is a fact that most women have attained great heights in the secular world, especially in the private sector. But when we come to the higher institution, we find that this is not obtainable. So it calls for concern and calls for worry, because these same women who are excelling out there are also the same type of women who are evidently found in these institutions as well. So it's important that efforts are being made to ensure that there's a balance so that women also have a fair playing ground and they'll be able to excel. So having said that, we now look at what the concerns are. If we do not work on taming down the excesses of gender inequity and upholding gender equity, these are some of the things that we're likely to face. One of the concerns is that it is important for us to note that women and men do not always have the same starting point in society. What I mean by this is because of social, cultural, and religious or political reasons, women are sometimes disadvantaged. Thus, it would be unfair to use sexual differences as the basis for women's subordination. Inequity in our universities or institutions of higher learning also presents itself by upholding sexist oppression, which leads to a defeatist attitude. It's important to note here that sexism is a situation where one gender or one sex is considered to be superior over another. So when we allow inequity to parade itself and take the center stage, then sexism also comes on board. Inequity reduces access to a conducive work environment. Our higher institutions are peopled by both male and female students and both male and female staff. So it's important that we maintain gender equity so that these students and staff are not spurred from becoming the best versions of themselves, bearing in mind that nothing can deliberately, the word deliberately on the line, bar them from attaining leadership positions as long as they work hard towards achieving it. Thank you.
Oh, I think it's getting hot in this room. Dr. Leah, thank you so much for that condensed piece you have just given us. Okay, so please note your questions. We're going to take questions when all the speakers have given us their points or answered their questions, and then you can ask them your questions. And when you want to ask a question, I want to refer to a particular speaker, please mention the speaker's name first. Okay, so to Dr. Leah, for example, or to Dr. Modupe, for example. Thank you so much, Dr. Leah. I'm still going to come back to you, but let me go to Dr. Mary. Dr. Mary, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so Dr. Mary, why do you think that implementing this gender equity in our higher education is important?
Thanks for that question. We've been talking about gender, which is a topical issue now. And gender equity is all about fairness. In our institutions, gender equity is very important. One, because of social justice. Social justice has just been about being fair and then justice for all. So when you have a social justice, it aims to eliminate all forms of discrimination about and bias, and then against every gender. And we know that there's a lot of stereotypes. The people that are suffering this gender inequalities mostly are females. So when we're able to remove, we're able to talk about social justice, we're able to eliminate discriminations and bias towards women. Another thing is that gender equity is about human rights. We have seen that in most declarations and agreements internationally, to mention the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, gender discrimination is a fundamental human right. So they do not want people to discriminate any gender in particular. So, and we know that respecting and upholding this human right is what gives us a just and equitable society. Another thing that's why gender is important is because of economic growth. We know that women are the basis for the homes. So if you empower a woman, you have empowered the whole nation. As our men struggle all over the place, the woman also contributes. We know the economic situation now. So if only one gender is allowed to do the whole work, there might be imbalance in the family, and one thing or the other will suffer. So we are advocating that women should be allowed to be given equal opportunities so that we can tap their potentials. Another thing why gender is important in our institution is about innovation and creativity. We need to bring diverse perspective to whatever we are doing. So when you include women, especially in your institution, they'll bring their creativity. As we know, women can multitask. So by the time you are excluding them from participating in higher institutions, we are limiting them from exhibiting their God-given talent, which will also be beneficial to the whole institution. Another thing is that brings about health and well-being, and especially about gender-based violence, which is mostly targeted at women and children. So by the time they are having this gender-based violence, it affects the overall health of the women. So by the time we are able to mitigate about this gender-based violence, the whole society will be well balanced, and there will be a lot of improvement in the health outcome for all. Another thing we need to see is that we have to reduce gender-based violence. That's why gender equity is very important. So we know that now there's so much efforts about reducing gender-based violence. People are not coming out to talk because there are a lot of organizations that are supporting that. Another thing we see that why gender is very important is social cohesion. When we promote gender equity, we are allowing people to come together and work together in harmony. And there's also what you call about the long-term benefits to the society. When you do that, people can grow up in a healthy environment without having to say, okay, I'm a girl, my own is limited to the kitchen and all that, and the boys will go and look for money. But by the time you bring gender equity in, everybody can do any particular role. We are not just limited to a particular role. And we know that now we're talking of sustainable development goals. Gender is one of the SDGs that we hope to achieve. So by the time we're talking about gender equity, we'll be able to achieve one of the universal sustainable development goals. That's why it's important. We'll be talking of reduction in poverty. We'll be talking of increased enrollments for girls and the female child. So it's one of the things that we need to do that will be able to achieve the universal sustainable goals. So overall, I will just say that implementing gender equity is important for promoting justice, human rights, economic growth, innovations, and health well-being. so that we can now be able to reduce violence, and then at the long run, the whole society will benefit. So that's why I think that gender equity is very important.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Mary. I like the fact that you mentioned that this will also help us to tap into the creativity and innovation of women. Somebody said somewhere that when you see a leadership team that has an equal representation of men and women, they do better. I don't know how true that is, but it's common knowledge that women are quite intuitive. You know, they have a way of just kind of sensing or noticing some things that the men folk don't notice very easily. That's what they said. Please, nobody should crucify me for this one. Okay, so Dr. Mary, how do you think that institutions can benefit from this gender equity that we are trying to promote today?
There's a lot of things that the institutions can benefit from gender equity. One, by the time we are talking of gender equity, these institutions can benefit immensely by involving everybody without excluding women in that. So one, we can see that there's what we call inclusion and then diversity. When you include everybody, everybody brings their talents on board, and then women will be also be able to contribute their own natural talents which they have to the workforce, and there will be a diverse workforce, and everybody is included. Also, there will be improved decision making in the university. Only one person will not have a particular decisions to make. Everybody will be carried along, and everybody, all genders, both men and women, will not be led behind, not that they will make a decision that will favor a particular gender. But when we're talking about gender equity, everybody will be involved in the decision making. So the institutions will benefit. So not that all the final decisions will not be focused on a particular person. Also, we can see that there will be increased talent pool. The organization will bring different people with different talents into the organizations, and then the organizations will grow more, and then they will perform much better. There will also be what we call high employers engagement, because they will have a wide range of people to choose with, not that we will only be looking for a particular group. We want only men, you know. And we have seen that in our international organizations, some people will even tell you that they want women especially to apply, because they know the potentials that women can bring to the benefits of the organization. And also, we have innovation and problem solving. A lot of problems will be solved from different perspectives. Then what's called another way is that they will benefit by long-term sustainability. By the time you bring everybody, whatever the organization wants to achieve can be sustainable, because you're not binding on a particular gender to carry all that. And also the benefits that when you have an organization like where I used to work before in the health, in a teaching hospital, we saw that for the female doctors, because to promote exclusive breastfeeding, they created a crèche where the women can come have interactions with their babies. The babies will not be neglected. So by the time you do that, there will be increased productivity. Not that while she's at work, she's thinking of the child that she has left at home, but because they created that environment, so the work will not suffer and the baby too will not suffer. So that's one of the ways that the institution can also benefit. And then we have also talked about the alignment with the Sustainable Development Goal, which is especially Goal 5. So by the time, which is talking about reducing inequalities. So by the time we put gender into the institutions, we also benefit from gender equality, because then we can also achieve the sustainable development goal. And at the long run, it will benefit the society. It will also foster a positive organization culture where everybody contributes positively, because if you include all the genders, men and women in whatever we are doing in the institutions, which is based on respect, fairness, and then equity is the core things that will be able to, the institutions will benefit from that. And then finally, we'll have access to a broad base of customer, we have a wider customer base for the institution, because everybody is involved. There will be more people in the organization. So these are ways that the institutions can benefit also, and then there will be improved corporate governance in the institution. So with all this, I think the institution has a lot to gain by being gender, bringing gender equality into the organizations that we, and the institutions that we work in.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mary. Inclusion, very important. This is going to foster inclusion, more engagement, increased talent pool, and many more that she mentioned here. Thank you so much for that. Now I'm going to call up Dr. Modukwe. Dr. Modukwe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Okay, so in your opinion, Dr. Modukwe, what do you think are the challenges to promoting gender equity in the higher and further education institutions in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Noella. My other colleagues have said a lot on what gender equity is. I just want to add my voice by saying that gender equity is allocating the available resources to everyone that is available, irrespective of their gender. It is an issue that has been, it's a topical issue and has been really overflowed in the past. And of course, in the Nigerian system, for example, there are laws, there are moves, that are supposed to be working in favor of gender equity. But the truth of the matter is that most of these laws and the factors that have been put in place are not working as they ought to be working, because we live in a patriarchal society, a society where men dominate. It's like a natural thing. You can't fault it and you can't challenge it. So that on its own is a challenge to gender equity. I want to look at it from two perspectives: the students in the higher institution and the staff in the higher institution. For students, there are so many challenges that have made it impossible or almost impossible for us to have gender equity. For instance, teenage pregnancy among young ones. The expectation is that after secondary school, a teenager should proceed to higher education. But where that teenager has an unfortunate incidence of unwanted pregnancy, that child's education is halted because she has to go through the period of bearing the child, taking care of the child. But when situation happens like this, you will see that it is the girl that is affected. The accomplice, which is the male, moves on with life. He is going on, he's going to the university if he has the capacity to do so. And by the time the girl is done with child rearing, she cannot be at the same pace with this male partner. So that would definitely make it impossible for them to be treated equally, because there is this disparity that cannot allow that to take place. Also, we have economic constraints that make gender equity unachievable. You will discover that in our society here, whenever there is family, when the family resources is limited and it is time for higher school entrance, it is the girl that will have to step down for the male child to go to the university, because the belief is that all the females' achievements will end up in the kitchen. And besides, some parents would even say, why should I put my money, taking care of you, sending you to university, when at the end of the day, you'll be going to another man's house? So they would rather invest on the male child than the female child, especially where the parents are not literate. So fairness cannot be achieved with that kind of mindset. Also, we have cultural issues. Marriage is a cultural factor that every woman is expected to go into at some point. And then the moment you enter marriage, the next expectation is for you to start bearing children. Of course, where that is not happening, the woman is seen as like a failure, or that there's something abnormal about the woman. Usually, nobody looks at the man. Nobody suspects the man to have any issues, but it's always the woman that everybody will be looking at and will be sending her to go for this test and that test. So that by the time the woman starts having children, her career is definitely going to be halted. She will have to go through motherhood, of which if she doesn't do it, society will come back to blame her if her children are not well taken care of and they are misbehaving in the society. Nobody would, nobody would commend the woman for that. But when she is doing that, some people will look at her as an unserious person, especially in the career path. I have a friend who has an experience, an experience with her boss. Unfortunately, she's in the academic. The boss would always want her to attend all the conferences, all the meetings, and anytime she declines to a conference, the boss will say she's not serious. But this lady has 3 children to take care of. Who will she leave these 3 children for? They are still in their very, very prime age, very young children. So even her promotion has been delayed because of this, because she's not publishing. Oftentimes, when a woman goes into the period of motherhood, by the time she comes back, it may be difficult to catch up with the male colleagues. And in some cases, by the time she wants to take up some positions, age is not on her side again. She will now be considered too old for the position. So these are some of the issues affecting or challenging gender equity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Modupe. Thank you so much. The patriarchal society thing is real. And it's not just in Nigeria, it's not just in Africa. It's everywhere. People still think it's a man's world. And so women are disadvantaged in many ways. Thank you for that. Now, I need you to just tell us in a few seconds, if you can, what gender inequity is. Now, we're talking about gender equity. What is gender inequity? And do you think that there are any disadvantages that this actually poses to women in higher education leadership?
Thank you very much. Gender inequity is virtually the opposite of gender equity. Inequity is a social phenomenon in which people are not treated fairly because of their gender. There are opportunities, there are positions. A particular sex is not considered for it because of stereotypes, because of the belief that they won't be able to perform. Let me be specific, women. Like I said earlier on, it's a patriarchal society where men take the decisions. It's like they have the monopoly of knowledge when it comes to taking decisions. And like we all know, he who plays the piper dictates the tune. So it's what they want that they will put into policies. And these policies will always favor them.
Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead, please. Go ahead, please.
Yes, we always favor them. So that inequity is subtly manifesting in every facet of life. I once attended a program, a church to be specific, and the man, the vicar there, asked the person that led us to that meeting to give someone that will minister with them on the altar. The moment the man, our leader, brought a woman, the vicar there said, sorry, we don't allow women on our altars. I was shocked because I started wondering since when gender has to do with spirituality or the function they were going to perform on the altar. So there are these inequities all around us. In every sphere you turn to, you find inequity. And inequity has disadvantages. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mulupe, for that. Kindly type your questions in the chat section for us to read, and the speakers will take your questions as they come in. So we're going to take the final questions for the speakers right now. Dr. Leah, are you there with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. So Dr. Leah, why do you think that women on underrepresentation in senior leadership in Nigeria, why do you think that women are underrepresented in leadership in Nigeria?
Thank you, Niola, for that question. First and foremost, it is important that we accept that underrepresentation exists, because that will be our takeoff point. Women are underrepresented in positions of leadership in higher and further educational institutions in Nigeria because of so many reasons. The first reason is that which has been highlighted by the two other speakers, the issue of patriarchy. Nigeria is highly patriarchal, hence the preference for males to take up managerial and administrative positions as compared to women. And this has largely been fueled by a lack of political will and commitment to bring gender inequity in our institutions to an end. The second reason why women are underrepresented in our institutions of higher learning is because there are very few women at that top position to consider the needs, wishes, and prayers of the other women. No matter how accommodating and considerate men are, there are some concerns and wishes of women that they will never know until the women are there and they are able to take this up. Because like they say, he who wears the shoes knows where it pinches most. Let me just give a simple example. There was a time when I was taking a class. It was a remedial class, but I noticed that one of my students, who I already knew was married and heavy with child, had started showing features of reaching her last trimester. So while the class was ongoing, I noticed a change in her countenance. She was beginning to exhibit some degree of pains in her actions. And being a woman who knew what this was all about, I paid close attention to her needs. I met her and she explained that she was experiencing pain. If she was being tutored by a male at that point in time, she would have had to either raise up her hand to call the attention of the man or leave the class under permission. But as a woman, having gone through these processes, I brought the class to an end. I took her to the university clinic. I called her husband and informed him of the situation. And I was also able to inform my superiors of what transpired while the class was ongoing. So it's important that women are able to strive to overcome the obstacles and reach that level so that they can create more room for women. It's not proper or fair to expect that it will just be handed down to us. Women have to work hard and meet the basic requirements so that when they get there, they can consider the needs of other women. The next reason why women are underrepresented in our institutions of higher learning is because we have held onto our gender norms for such a long time that they have become ingrained in our systems. And as a result of that, we simply consider it to be a man's world. Since it is a man's world, men hold everything. And so women are given very little space. This invariably leads to so many women having a defeatist attitude and not being determined enough to pursue the needed change. More specifically, there are 3 other factors that are responsible, which we're going to look at quickly. The first are societal factors, where when women are assertive and they open up and air their opinions, they are considered to be insubordinate and bad women. Sometimes they are termed a bad influence on other women. So these traditional roles limit women's potentials and their ability to attain great heights in institutions. Then there are organizational cultures. Organizational cultures involve meeting the specific needs of women, like Dr. Modupe mentioned and Dr. Mary, having creches in our universities where women can multitask. We also see that because of this existing gap, some of the potentials that women have are not brought to bear. Women are very accommodating. They pay attention to details. They are insightful. And whenever they find that they have erred or fallen short of expectations, they keep ruminating over the matter and they try to punish themselves, even if it's from their mind, so that they do not repeat the same mistakes again. But men usually don't pay attention to all this. Not because it's deliberate, but because by nature we are wired and constructed differently. Then the third factor is the individual factor, where women's perceptions and their preferences all come to bear. We mentioned earlier that a lot of women do not have the required self-confidence. They have a defeatist attitude. So even in scenarios where women have been given the opportunity to take up these positions, a lot of them have shied away from it because they feel they are not competent enough. So in order to change this narrative and change this underrepresentation, it is important that these factors are incorporated. In addition to that, this program is a very good platform that encourages women to speak up and to learn strategies on how to do better in representing their gender at positions of authority. Then last but not the least, there's a lack of transformational and concrete leadership parameters that are set up by women, which will enable them to coach and mentor other women so that they can come out of their shells and be more proactive in pursuing that which is important to them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Leah. Okay, so we have some questions here. The first question is, what is the way out of all the issues tabled here before us? Okay, so Dr. Leah, would you want to start with that? Or Dr. Mary, would you want to start with that? So Dr. Leah, could you give us one or two ways out of this? We actually have just 7 minutes to round off this program. So we need to be as brief, straight to the point as possible. 7 minutes only for the questions. Go ahead, please.
One of the ways that we can come out of this problem is by being deliberate and conscious of toning down the biases that obstruct career progression, such as the prejudices against women. Another way we can come out of this is by ensuring that there's a level playing ground where both men and women are given opportunities to excel, and that there are no deliberate barriers that are erected on the basis of gender or sexual affiliations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Nadupe, could you give us?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think,
yes,
I think women should stop playing victim on this representation in higher education institutions. We should just ensure that we do the needful, get all that we need to get, work hard, and know our rights. So that when you know you are qualified for a position or for a benefit, you should go for it. Be assertive. Ask for what belongs to you and be ready to defend yourself. And then I think there should be proper socialization. Unfortunately, some people get into the higher institutions. Nobody tells them what the things they are supposed to do to progress. They just leave them to themselves, believing that because you have PhD, you know all. It is assumed that you know all that you are supposed to do to make progress in that at that level. No, I think there should be proper socialization. People should be socialized into the next level in life, because socialization itself is a long life process where people are trained, where they are well integrated into the society they belong. Somebody should be able to tell them what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, so that people will not fall into the errors that will limit them or that will not encourage them to go forward and want to represent their institutions or to go for leadership roles. So I think there should also be recognition and awards of women that are achieving great feats. There are a lot of things people celebrate in this country with a lot of awards. But when it comes to education, especially with women, we downplay it. I think there should be more of recognition and award given to women that are doing great, so that those young ones that are looking up onto them will be motivated and know that it's a journey that is worth pursuing. So they will know that it's not just work, read, but that you will also be recognized and be well rewarded for it. And I also want to add that with inequity with the level of inequity in our societies, there are disadvantages that we have to be mindful of, so that we work on these inequities. So optimization of the female genders, where some women can do certain things better than men. Because of this gender inequity, it will rather be given to a man, making excuses on behalf of the woman. You know, like, because she's a woman, because she's a mother, she will not come early. She will always be coming with excuses. I'm taking my children to school. I'm going for school run. I'm going for a meeting. You know, all those things. I think attention should be paid to them. And also the health of women, the health. Some women suffer ill health the moment they get to that level, and it affects them. It affects their productivity. So this should also be put into consideration. Women should be encouraged to take care of their health. And then I'm not asking that the standards should be lowered for women, but we should consider all of this when we are handling women issues. Finally, I also want to say, putting age limits to some of the offices or to opportunities will not allow women to move higher. Because by the time some women get to certain level, you know, because of late entrance, by the time they write all of the papers required, by the time they do all of the things required, you will discover that there's that age barrier. They are now too old to attend this or to attend that, because you see some workshops that are advertised and they will put age limits there. They will put age barrier, so that these are not helping women with with representation in higher level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Modupe. Dr. Mary, I'm coming to you.
Okay. Once more, the things that we can put in place to address gender inequality and underrepresentation of women in higher education, my colleagues, Dr. Modupe, has said so much about that. Another thing that we need to do leadership development and training. And I'm so happy for this program that is organized by Lincoln University and committees of vice chancellors and British Council, that they have put so much to organize this program, like the training that occurred between March to August. We have learned a lot of things to improve women representation in the higher institutions. So those are programs that can foster gender inequality. Also, we need to put in place mentorship programs. People, ladies who are in higher positions can mentor the younger ones. Recently, there was an award that was given to outstanding women in Africa. And we saw a lot of women are in higher positions doing well. So those ones that can also mentor the younger ones to see that because you're a woman, I'm in this position, see how far I have gone, so that they can mentor the younger ones. By the time you have such examples and they are mentoring them, other ladies will be encouraged to be part of such a program and coming out to participate in the higher positions in our institutions. Also, we need to put in place work-friendly and family-friendly culture and policies that will allow women to still do their work and also look after the children. Like Dr. Modupe mentioned, age is a problem because like I will just say, for example, by the time I started residency, I had gone to deliver. My colleagues have already started and they are almost finished. Most of them had finished before I started because I had to go and give birth before coming to do that. So I think by the time there are friendly policies in the workplace that, okay, you can still be delivering, you can do, you still progress in your pursuit, it will be very good. And I will give you an example of my vice chancellor in Prince Abubakar Udu University. She, because she's a woman and she's in higher position, so she identifies women who have the capability to do the work and give you the position. Like when I first came, I was giving the HOD, the dean, and then the provost to perform, that you also have those talents which the men have. So she gives the opportunity, that's mentoring me now for people to see that, okay, because she's a woman, she might not be, but she has picked women in different places to represent their various departments in various things. And we have not done bad, and we have not shown that you are incompetent, that we've shown that you are equal to the task as much as the men are in those fields. We have done well. And as she said, we can emphasize the need for socialization. Children need to be trained from the house, from the family, that they should put the stereotypes around. Some specific jobs are for girls and some are for boys. So by the time we give them, everybody see everybody as being treated equally and then fair. That way, by the time they grow up, they'll not be discriminating against women in that. Then we also, because our society is patriarchal in nature, we have to involve men. We have to do a lot of sensitization and then advocacy and education of the menfood, because we can't do it on our own. We have to involve them in the struggle for equity. So by the time we're able to educate them and give them advocacy and sensitization, we can see that gender inequality will reduce greatly. So those are some of the things that we can put in place. Also, we should try to reduce bias in recruitment processes. We should make it a blind recruitment process, not saying that because of this, that, we don't want this, we don't want that. So when the recruitment process is unbiased, you don't put gender in what you want to do. Anybody that has the capabilities and the talents can showcase and come for the hiring process. And then difference in our adverts for jobs in the institutions, we should put inclusion and from all genders, and we should use less of gender neutral languages so that everybody has equal opportunity to apply in those. I think these are some ways that we can reduce gender inequality in our higher institutions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mary. These are very brilliant points you just made. Okay, let me read out some of the questions that we have in the chat section. We're going to have some minutes for the members of the audience to also contribute, okay? But let me read this out. Dr. Abigail asked, don't you think we can put in place a legal framework that will promote gender equity in leadership roles, such as policies on gender quotas for board positions or positions of leadership? And then Dr. Abigail also said, awareness should be raised about the importance of diversity and inclusion in educational leadership and the benefits it can bring to institutions and society. Stain V, I think your question has already been answered by Dr. Mary. Stain V asked, how can we take this to the grassroots? Because of the formative age of the girl, she is constantly reminded that she is a girl and will become a good wife. It affects her psychology as a girl. So Dr. Medipo already told us that, Dr. Mary rather, that this should start from the home. So at home, we should start the party, because the biases many times actually start from the home. So you tell a boy to stay watch TV and the girl goes to do the chores and all of that. So you're already creating a bias at home. So this has to start from home, and then we can extend it to the other areas, other environments. Okay, so I'm going to open the floor right now. I can see some hands up. Hannah Etta, your hand is up. Dr. Cornelius, your hand is up. Hannah, you have exactly 1 minute, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. So in my own opinion, I think we've
Hannah,
done a
can we
lot
see
of...
your face, please? Thank you.
Oh, sorry. We've done a lot of talking about gender. Sorry, I just came back from work. I'm in the car. We've talked a lot about these inequalities. I think it's time we start enforcing some of these things. For instance, I'm thinking of having daycares, a daycare, a nursery in every office in Nigeria or wherever. A nursing mother shouldn't be limited because she's nursing a baby. She can't go back to work. There should be a daycare somewhere that you can keep the baby while you work. After work, you pick your baby and go home. That is one. Then the issue of like paternity leave. Fathers should also be assigned some kind of paternity leave. So they take care of the baby if the mom has to be at work. It shouldn't be like we have said, these stereotypes. And then there are some cultures that make it their life, I don't know, goal to be wicked to the women. There's that video of a little girl we keep seeing on WhatsApp. It keeps reoccurring that she was married off to somebody. She ran back home to take her school back to school. And she was flogged in the village square where bare bottom with men with sticks flogging her. Those kind of cultures should be brought to book. Whoever perpetrates it should be like serious lawsuits against them so that they will know that this thing is serious. There are so many stereotypes that needs to be changed, like we have all agreed. But I think we've done so much talking, we should start enforcing. I heard in the Kenyan parliament or one other country, they were agitating for women. At the end of the day, so many women were there, but they are inactive. Like they just go sit down, stand up, not saying anything. So the women should be trained. You're not just going to sit in the boardroom. You're going to sit on that table and contribute meaningfully. So like the last speaker said, training, a lot of training, mentoring needs to be put into this if we really want to achieve these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Cornelius, I'm coming to you.
Yeah, thank you for giving give me the audience to speak. Some of us who are men, who are into gender, I think sometimes the women have some problems they need to solve on their own. So let me begin by saying, I think women should overcome their fears. It's very, very important we do that. It's very disappointing that you have a professor who is in the department and you are going for departmental election. And you want to tell her, I want to nominate you. Say, no, I can't do it. I don't want problem. I can't do it. I'm a mother. I have a lot of responsibility. And she's a professor. You can imagine that. So women should overcome their fears. That's the first point we have to look at here. A lot of programs have been done for women to be empowered, and there's been empowerment. Now it depends on the women to be able to make advantage of the empowerment that has been given. So this fear of being amongst men is part of the problem of women. They need to overcome that. And again, even some of them, when they are even given that opportunity to become HODs, you see that she won't be able to take responsibility, able to make decisions. She wants to do authentication of a man in what she wants to do. Even when she knows that what she's doing is right, she doesn't want to do it. Waiting for a man to authenticate, please go ahead, it's good, it's fine. That is defeating yourself. So the women need to come out of themselves and defeat their fears. And again, sometimes you even see amongst the women, you appoint a woman to the HOD, it is the fellow women that will begin to fight her. It's the fellow women that will begin to bring her down. So women have to, on their own, organize themselves. This is what is happening even in the university where we are. You appoint a woman and you will see men supporting her, but fellow women are the ones that will be working against her to bring her down, not to be able to perform. So who do you blame at that point? Is it the man you are still blaming? So women have had a lot of opportunities, but they're not coming out. Let me also say this finally. Like I think Dr. Meluko mentioned, now we should be thinking of future. Our children are coming up. How are we bringing them? In our homes, you will see a child wants to do something. The mother says, no, she's a girl, she cannot do it. No, it's the boy should do. And I keep saying this. If we keep emphasizing on training our girl child and forgetting the boy child, at a point you are going to have responsible women to be married by irresponsible men. So we should emphasize a balanced training, both men and women at home. Let the women do what a man can do. Let the boys do what it becomes balanced. So these are my contributions, and that will help us to go further.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cornelius. I'm coming to you, Vanessa. Vanessa, please turn on your video. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I think to reiterate, I think everyone that spoke from this,
Vanessa,
lady
let's
that
see your
spoke
face, please. Can we see your face? Thank you.
Okay. The lady that spoke earlier has said a bit of what I wanted to say, and Dr. Cornelius, that just spoke now. I think it begins at home. Let's try and teach our boys these things. And you cannot blame these women to wait for validation from these men. That's the way, like one of the speakers mentioned, patriarchy. That's the way the society is. And if you look at the society right now, I think that when couples travel abroad,
your
mic if you're not talking, please.
They have issues. Most of us to also.
Vanessa, go ahead, please.
The women have to support financially, so you cannot leave them at home. Thereby, there is quarrel. There's an issue between the man and the wife. So basically, let's just try and bring our boys up. Let's try and train the men. And for now, let's just ignore the fact that these women are not supporting women. If we train these men up and teach them and show them that, yes, women are also important in the society, they should have a voice. They should do what they want to do when they want to do it. As a mother, I don't see the reason why, because you decided to have children, you cannot move on. Your life just literally stops for a particular number of donkey years. Most of us 10, 12 years, it doesn't make any sense. So let's bring up our children. It begins at home. It begins at home. That's where these things can be sorted. If you train your child, your boy, and to let that child know that women have a place, they can speak, you can do this. It's not a woman job to sweep, to clean, to cook, domestic chores. She can take decisions for herself, provided at a certain age she's being guided. It shouldn't be an issue at all. It shouldn't be a topic that would have to go over and over again. This conversation of equality and all of that, inequity and equity, it's becoming really, really overstretched. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. I like your passion, and it's overflowed because we haven't even made much progress. It's been all talk and no action. And what we want to do here is for us to begin to take action. We need to take action from our homes. All of us belong to a home. We don't all belong to a society, an organized society per se, but we all belong to a home. So let us begin to raise our voice to understand that equity is important. Sally, I'm coming to you. Sally Asagwara, I'm coming to you. Sally, your hand is up. Could you unmute your mic and talk to us? Okay, Stainless, I'm coming to you. Sally doesn't seem to be available. Stainless, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Go ahead, Stainless.
I am here. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Thank God we have some men bailing us out here. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I just want to add to the point that has been already established, that there is need for role modeling from the home. This whole thing begins from the home. Fathers and mothers should be good role models to their children. If a male child or a female child could actually see the father doing some of the chores that is designated in quotes to the woman's work, it will help her. It will help her psychology. It will help her a long way. It will help the male child a long way. Let's not just do the talk alone. Yes, government can come up with policies that could help to strengthen this, to curb this, but then we do not need the government, or we do not need the policies to begin in our kitchen, in our bedrooms, in the parlor, in our very home. That is where it starts, and that is the root. This is my submission on this.
Thank you so much, Stainless. Yes, Sally.
Yes.
We have actually extended our time here. But
okay.
Yes, Sally, go ahead, please. Turn on your camera.
Is my voice heard?
We can hear you perfectly,
okay.
Sally. But we need to see your face. Thank you.
Okay, you don't need to see my face. Okay, thank you. I appreciate you all. My contribution is one. This is a women's affair, is it? Or is it men and women affair?
Everybody's affair, Sally.
Yes, because if we're talking about gender equity, there is gender inequity already in attendance. What happened? Why are we having more women than men in this forum? That's number one. Number two, talking about remedies to gender equity. It starts in higher institutions, for instance. It starts from the recruitment or admission policy. You have children who go to school, the same school, sit in the same class, take the same JAMB examination, irrespective of where they are domiciled. When admission process comes up, you create differential state cutoff marks. And in creating these differential cutoff marks, many smart ladies are disenfranchised. They are not disenfranchised, they are disallowed. So are we not, can we consider that there's a policy provision that helps to encourage gender inequity? If admission into higher institution is based on performance, it should be based on achievement, because they go through the same syllabus, they take the same examination, so that everybody who achieves from whatever state, from whatever local government, from whatever area gets admitted, so that the women from particular areas are not screened out. That is my my personal submission. Thank you very much. And I want to appreciate you all. And I want to support Stainless. You are right.
Thank you so much, Sally. Thank you.
Bye.
Yes. Dr. Abigail said a few men are into gender studies. Okay, maybe that's why we don't have a lot of men here, because the promotion for today's program was not selective. We actually promoted this program across board on all social media platforms, and we never said it was for women. But you know, it's still the same bias. The moment people saw women in, they automatically, you know, take it that this is for women. You know, so we have this unconscious bias about us. The same thing with the men. If we had said men in, you'll also see that more men would have attended this program than women. Is there anybody else who, okay, Dr.
Yes,
Hello.
Okay.
Amma, okay, she has left. She said that most of our
Hello.
questions have been answered. Yes, please.
Yes, I wanted to say something, yeah.
What's your name?
You just said, Dr. Cornelius.
Dr. Cornelius, okay.
Yes.
I'm trying to find you. Go ahead, Dr. Cornelius, please.
Yes, what you said now is one of the problems I envisaged. You see, with the program, it's talking about gender, but advertisement is talking about women. That's feminism. We should be able to understand the difference between feminism and gender. When you're talking about gender, you are talking of a balanced study, that you are talking about men and women. But your advertisement is talking about women only. So sometimes some men are not interested. Some men are not interested. It's just that me, I'm a gender advocate. My PhD is on gender, and I'm interested in anything that has to do with women and men given equal opportunity. So I think the adverts somehow affected, a lot of men have their biases, certainly. So I think the advert was also a problem. It talked about only women in higher institution, not gender in higher institution. I think if that is corrected, you would have seen more men being part of the program.
I think that this actually borders on unconscious bias, Dr. Cornelius, if you ask me, because if you said children, are we expecting that only children should have attended events? I would have expected that men and women should attend the event, knowing that everybody has a child, at least a child that looks up to you. That child is not yours.
That's wrong.
Just a minute,
Just a
minute, Dr. Cornelius. So if say for women, everybody has a woman in their life. If you don't have a wife, you don't have a sister, you have a colleague. So I think it's more of a mindset thing, an unconscious bias thing. If we have to do, because truly the emphasis here is for women, but why are men not coming? Because these men interact with the women. But I'm telling you that we are not here to indict the men, because even if we had said men in higher education, the women in their unconscious bias too will say it is not for me, forgetting that women and men work in the same higher institution. Okay, so that's the point I'm trying to make.
It's a bias.
Exactly, so we're saying the same thing. Absolutely. Thank you. Yetunde, your hand is up.
Hello.
Yes,
good afternoon, everybody. I want to call our attention to this observation of mine that has to do with gender bias with women also. I found out in our academics recently that there is always an age barrier that is always put on women, or even on application of most of the what they call, you might be looking at maybe grants, or even for higher education like PhD and all that, or even some research work. Now, for example, somebody like me that I had to invest 10 years immediately after I got married, I couldn't have gone back to school. I had to do little family here and there, settling my home before I could go back to school. And so counting that 10 years now, adding it to when I started going back to school, it's not going to also help with my age limit and barrier that have been placed on a lot of things that I would have applied for. You hear them say a language like a young researcher, and then you will see 30, you will see 35. You understand? So back and forth, take 10 years away from my age now. I could have qualified for that. But I had to look into family things and all that, which is still about what are the barriers that women are facing, you know, even in higher education. So for a colleague of mine who is a man who has started education as soon as I left school, and then we left school first degree together, he had gone back. He didn't have to wait because he had to carry a pregnancy or he had to nurse a child. You understand? And so that's another issue that I think we also have to take action about, because of all these age limits and barriers that are put in place, especially when you want to take higher education, especially for females. It's also
cutting down the number of people that can access such. So I think that's another area of action that we ought to look into. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your active participation. We planned to spend just an hour. We spent an hour, 24 minutes. We even extended it by 15 minutes. We exhausted the 15 minutes and we added more minutes. But I believe that everybody here has got great value participating at today's session. Please, if you are not part of the EDI WhatsApp group, try and join that WhatsApp group, because we are continuing this discussion on women in higher education leadership. We are not ending here, and we are also going to have another session. We are also going to have another session coming up next week, I believe. So please try and tell your colleagues, those who are not here, to warm up for the next session. Thank you so much, everybody. Dr. Paul, are you here? Is Dr. Paul
Yes,
still
I'm
with
here.
us?
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Noella, for a job well done. Thank you, the panelists, Dr. Leah, Dr. Modupe, Dr. Mary. Thank you, everyone, for all, high distinguished colleagues, and also, every one of you who have joined in from different universities. We have also created time to follow this project, so we really appreciate. So we want to continue the momentum. The conference is held in Abuja, bring together all the vice chancellors of Nigeria as part of CVC's celebration of 61-year anniversary. We're also inviting key education agencies like Ministry of Education, TED Fund, NUC, and the colleges of education agencies and polytechnic agencies to be part of that discussion. So what we want to do is, going forward, we want to be bringing those who are concerned or who have the responsibility to shape the policies to be part of this webinar going forward. Like Noella said, we have a series of the webinar coming up. We hope to be holding at least one in every month, forever, until we can, continue to exhaust this. It's never going to be ending. So on this note, I want to wish everyone well. I want to also look forward to see you in Abuja on the 8th to 12th. Those who can make it, please do come. And also we will look forward for the next webinar. Also, pin me if you want, or anything you want us to schedule for you to discuss on this platform or present on this platform. We are more than happy to accommodate, more presenters and more speakers on the various issues that revolve around women, leadership, EDI, and SDGs. Good night, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we leave, please, can we all turn on our cameras and take a photo? Dr. Paul, please. Can we all turn on our cameras and take a